Welcome to G-Force Podcast. I have the honor and privilege to be able to interview Carmin Black today. Hi, Carmin. How are you doing?
Hi, Britnie. I'm doing great. I'm so excited to meet you and speak to you today.
I have been dying to meet you. We've been trying to schedule this for a long time because you are a fascinating woman. Carmin is a social entrepreneur that started her business to be able to feed and grow people. And I want to hear all about that because social entrepreneurs are my absolute favorite in the world. We are people that have incredibly big hearts and we want to change the world, and we do it via our business. So it's double prizes. You're not quite a nonprofit at all. You're out there making a profit and making a difference. And I think that this is something the world is really hungry to learn more about. And so I want you to share how you got started, why you got started, and we're going to talk about your struggles along the way.
Yes, I would love to. Yeah, anything I can share to, for me, what I always do is I keep, and not that I do this that often really, but when I do get the opportunity to share my story and meet fascinating people like you, what I keep in mind is just, what can I say that will help the end user? Hopefully if they need to watch something or rewatch something to gain some confidence, that's my goal. So I'll try and be as transparent as possible, really in the hopes that I can help people facing similar challenges.
I love that. And that's going to be great for our listeners. So many people listening to this podcast have had a dream, have had a vision. They're very passionate, but they don't actually know how to turn that into something, instead of just like being for a cause, to something they're actionably changing themselves. My favorite quote is Buckminster Fuller: you never change something by fighting the existing reality. You change things by creating a better system that makes the old system obsolete. And I think there's a lot of passion, and I want people to learn from you. How did you do it? So where'd you get this crazy idea?
Yeah.
And what's that journey looked like?
Yeah. Well, it's funny today, Britnie, I'm going to share, right before I, met you, I was watching an interview that you did at a women's conference last year, and you were very blatant about your faith. And I loved how one of the things you said was, you kind of addressed the audience. You're like, look, I don't care what you guys believe. You guys have asked me to come here and speak. This is what I believe. And I was like, that's so good and so strong. And so, I'm a believer as well. And I think that sometimes, you'll go into interviews and sort of want to not skirt that, but just be sensitive to the fact that you have all types of people listening, but I will say, because you've kind of given me that, confidence to talk about, I'm going to talk about, I don't care what these people believe, but
if it's your story, it's your story. I cannot tell my story and not talk about God, because there isn't a story. It wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah. And that's how I feel in my life too. And so this is a story that I've never shared anywhere ever, but I'm going to share today. I was in college, and I actually, the first 2 years of college, I ran track, and that was an incredible experience for me. I loved it. And it was funny because as I was running track and so involved in sports, I would often see fraternity and sorority members and think, I will never do that. Like, that is so lame. I would never. Well, fast forward 2 years, I transferred schools because of a heartbreak situation at the school where I ran track. So I had to get out of there, and I transferred to a new school. What did I do? I joined a sorority. I did it. Oh my gosh. It was like the thing I swore I would never do. So here I am in this sorority, and I'm living the typical sorority life. We went out a lot. I was the girl that Saturday night was out till 2 a.m. and Sunday morning I was in church. And I was just living this life that was straddling the fence. And there was this one, but I tell you that to give you context, that it wasn't like I was Mary, the mother of Jesus, with this story I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
I was making some decisions that I wouldn't make now, probably. But one night I was laying in my bunk bed in my sorority room, and I kid you not, I was waken up, or awoken, however you'd say that, and I was sitting up in my bunk bed with my arms outstretched in front of me. And I woke up like this in this weird position, and I couldn't recognize my hands. Like, Britnie, I'm telling you, I could not recognize them. And I just looked and I was like, what is happening? And I've never done drugs, so it wasn't to that extent. I wasn't like high on anything. I wasn't drunk, and I couldn't recognize my hands. And I literally felt God say to me, not audibly, but so clear now that, and I couldn't recognize them. This, like, I was like, what is happening? No one else in my room was awake. And I felt like he impressed upon me, now that you see that these hands are mine and not your own, now we can take these hands and do great things in the world. And Britnie, I wasn't living. Okay. And so I'm like looking at this and I'm like, and I received this sort of word, woken up in the middle of the night, and I said, okay. I was like, all right. And so I laid back down. And I think what happened from that experience that I unintentionally had, I do not feel better than anybody. I do not feel more special than anybody by any means. But I knew that God had given me this promise. Just let me take the reins. These are not your hands. I'm going to take them and use them if you'll let me. Woo! Can you believe it?
Oh my gosh.
And so from then on, I just I didn't, and at the time I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went off, I worked on Capitol Hill as a news reporter. I worked at a small news station here in North Carolina. I was like, I hated my job. I didn't know where I was headed, but God has sort of paved this path for me. And here I am, a social entrepreneur who now designs products and helps people in developing nations. And I'm like, I couldn't have made this story up, how from that girl laying in a sorority bunk bed in the sorority house to who I am today, and how and I'm talking to you, you know, it's like, I just knew that God somehow was going to make it possible, because he told me he would. I just didn't know when or how.
I have so many chills. It's insane.
Oh, amazing.
It's crazy. It's so funny you say the hands comment, because I remember early in my career, I started really doing well. I actually went to, I wasn't married, but I was with somebody I had considered marrying because I was with them for 10 years. And I went to like pre-marriage counseling. We weren't even engaged or anything. But the marriage counselor told me, in order to be a godly woman, your role is in the kitchen.
Oh.
Like, that is your God call on your life.
Right.
And I had been crushing it in business. You know, again, I'm still new, but I was crushing it. I was doing well. And I knew that the whole point of this was to like be able to build orphanages and to be able to solve world issues and all this stuff. And I remember looking at my hands and saying, and they were like, they actually had some sparkles on them, which was interesting. I was just looking at my hands and I was like, I think being a wife and mother is one of the highest callings anyone could ever have.
That's right.
But I don't think, based on the fact I was born with body parts I didn't pick.
Right.
Me being a child of God, that is the only thing that I am to do in order to be equal to a godly woman.
That's right.
And I think that's why what I shared with you right before we started this podcast was only listen to people you want to be like, and in that specific area. Of course, this was a man telling me this, but I had to sharpen the voices, even though this was somebody I looked up to and respected. I had to shift the voice to being, who does God say that I am? Mm-hmm. And who does God say that I'm capable of, regardless of the role of a woman in someone's opinion or what they think. You know, like, I literally, they're telling me this is what it means to be a godly woman, but I had to go to God to hear what does being a godly woman look like, because there's a cage of lies. And a lot of people will put you in based on whatever your gender is, your age is, your whatever is. And I really want to encourage people to do a lot of what you did. It's just take ownership of your life. Look at your hands. What am I capable of doing through Christ, or whatever you want to believe? Like, what am I capable of doing and helping make this world an even better place? How can I express love with these? Not say it, but do it. Live it. And so when I get lost at all, I literally look at my hands.
That's incredible that I would have shared this today. That's awesome. No, and Yeah, and I love that yours had glitter on them. Like, that's not a
So
coincidence.
weird. Yeah.
It was. It's like they're gleaming. They're special. They're meant for more than just average, you know. And I mean, but and kind of like my story, similar to yours. This is for everyone, you know. And that's what I say. Like, it's not that we are special or set apart. This is for any one of us. We're all just so uniquely designed and created that we, you know, I think what people just have to do is not look to the left or right at what other, you know, what is Britnie Turner doing? What is Carmin Black doing? Don't look, I mean, we want to help and inspire and encourage, but everybody is on their own path and their own journey. And so just follow the promptings that you believe are true for you and you'll get there, you know?
Right. What does feeding people in need mean and look like on a practical basis? How does your clothes actually help do that?
Right, exactly. So I'll start with this. So feeding people for us. So when I was a kid, my dad and literally both grandfathers and my uncle were all ministers. Okay. So what this meant was on Sundays, you know, my dad and grandpas and everyone, they were behind a pulpit at a church. But, you know, Monday through Saturday, or maybe I guess they probably had some days off during the week, but the rest of their work week was spent, you know, I very often as a child went door to door. We grew up in a very low income neighborhood in Waipahu, Hawaii. So I lived on the island of Oahu. I know, girl, and so you can't make this stuff up. When I would go to work with my dad, we were taking groceries door to door to homes of let's say widows or the elderly. Or I remember so often with my grandfather going to change bedpans of elderly people who were homebound and like would defecate in their bed, and we had to clean their sheets. And I sang in prisons as a child. I mean, it was just my whole childhood was just all about philanthropy. And so this is deeply rooted in who I am. My mom adversely worked for Gucci, and she did interior design for major retail brands. And at the time, Sears Roebuck was huge. And my mom did, you know, major store layouts for Sears. So fashion and philanthropy has always been the two major influences on my life, right?
Cool.
So when we started Half United, what happened was I had learned from Tom's Shoes basically how to take the cost of, let's say for us it's 7 meals, for them it was the cost of a shoe, put that into your cost of goods, just like a line item. So for example, with this necklace, you know, the chain costs money, the coin costs money, the plating, the clasp, the assembly, the tag bag, whatever. But then just like any other line item in this cost, we put meals. So we donate the dollar equivalency of 7 meals to kids in Wilmington, North Carolina, and Haiti. And you can see behind me, there's leather goods. Now we also help to employ 93 men and women in Haiti to make our leather products, to create gainful employment. Yeah, and so, you know, that's just how we do it and how it works. Yeah.
I think that's something so huge. So there's multiple ways to set up a business. It's, you can, you know, sell your product and then X amount of the profit goes into a bucket to then go help people, or you can make it a line item. And I find if you really want to actually do it, making it a line item is the game changer. And so we do both. But I found that I would argue with my leadership team over and over again.
Me too.
Because they're like, you can't be profitable in business and care about people on the planet the same way that you do, Britnie. You can't do it. And I said, we always found a way to sponsor an orphan in the name of our home buyer for a year, no matter what. But whenever I wanted to do more, because that was a line item, like we did it. But whenever I wanted to do more, it was a fight. And so for all of you who don't feel like fighting with or tearing through a leadership team that may be more greed-centered than you are give-centered, then making it a line item and saying, we cannot be in business if we can't do these line items. And
that's right.
Add them over time. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Just make some profitability goals and then add new initiatives along your journey versus trying to save the whole planet with your product day one. If you try
that's great advice. Yeah, that's great advice. let me tell you something that's really interesting about you. So I was watching a video of Necker Island and Richard Branson, and you were in the video. You didn't
Where is this
Listen,
video?
I don't even know. Listen, this is so weird. You were in the video. You didn't talk. I think maybe they had given you like a Chiron, like you had a CG that said your name and maybe who, like your business, G-Force or Aerial Investments or Development. But I didn't know who you were. And I'm telling you, as I watched the video, I was like, I'm supposed to know that woman. I was like, who is that? Isn't that weird?
Yes.
I was like, I think I'm supposed to know her. I had told one of the women who works as our COO here about this. And I said, I think I'm supposed to know this person. I said, I don't know why. I just saw her on this video and something was like, I'm supposed to know her. And then I think Grace, who is our COO, reached out to your team and comes to find out you guys had a podcast. And they're like, hey, come be on our podcast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I will really know her. And it's so interesting. But as I've done research on you and learned about you, we have so many commonalities. I listened to you say that when you were 12, you thought that you wanted to be a missionary and your dream was to live in Africa. And I'm like, that was me. Like, not a missionary, but you know, since I was a child, I had these things inside of me that are now coming to fruition as I'm an adult. But like for you, how have you achieved so much? Like, what is my background is ministry and fashion. Like, where do you come from?
Well, I'm one of 6 kids, grew up on a farm, and we didn't talk a lot about what we want to be when we grew up, but I knew I wanted to be an astronaut. And I thought I would marry a rich dude so that I could raise horses. And then I had an out-of-body experience. I wasn't around people that had this stuff happen. It wasn't like, oh, somebody put something in my head. I had an out-of-body experience at 12. I saw myself serving in Africa. And so what I took from that was that means I'm supposed to be a missionary in Africa because I felt God's all-consuming presence and it will change your life. It's the highest high you can possibly feel. And I was just I was literally sitting in church, not paying attention when this happened. And I do not share this story often because most people can't handle it and understand it. Guess what? My experience trumps your opinion. This is what happened. I can't change it. I have no idea. I was 12.
That's cool.
And so I had, again, experienced like an all-consuming love in every fiber and molecule of my being. And so I thought I should just get to Africa and I'll feel that again. And so that became my identity. Everybody thought I was going to, that's what I said I wanted to do. And I was like, well, I should probably have some skills. So I ended up going to a survival school, leadership school. It's a ministry school too, but I wanted to be a hardcore missionary, and I thought I would be a medical missionary too. Always cared a lot about learning about the human body and how do you help really serve people. Again, that's the only useful thing I could imagine back then. But after going on mission trips, like I would work 5 jobs at a time so I could go on these different mission trips every summer. I would just be really pissed off.
Right.
And I felt really guilty because I'm supposed to be doing something holy, but I'm angry. And I'm like, I'm a bad person. But I would get so angry because I saw things I can't unsee. I saw starvation. I saw abuse. I saw trafficking. I saw just these horrible atrocities, people living in garbage and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I would just there and I'd feed them and I'd play with the kids. We'd do a quack and then we'd leave. And my irritation was, I want to do something more. And so I believe that we have 2 opportunities in life when you feel these feelings. This is my maturing. I've recognized this. Yeah. You can just become really angry. You can hate the people that oppress them. You can hate and become an activist. Or you can actually work to build the solution. You can take all that energy. And so I wouldn't say that my career is sponsored by this hate or anything like that. It's actually a love and a vision of a higher standard. And so frustration is actually the emotion when you see a better way and it's not there. You're just like kind of irritated. So instead of just being angry, find a way to build a bridge from there to here and pull people up, sell them on the vision of what it can be. And so I wish it sounds really smart to like say what I did in my career, like, oh, I just built this way. But behind the scenes, I had no idea what I was doing. I never knew that it would work. I didn't
Yeah.
really know this was the solution. I had
Yeah.
10 frustrated years of thinking that God took me off the path into this
Yeah.
world of making money. And yeah, of course, I sponsored hundreds of orphans and I've done so many amazing things for my city. But I had a really specific picture of living in Africa and saving
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
or being
Yeah.
trapped. Instead, now I see that I was learning all the skills I need to actually develop nations.
Wow.
And that God had not taken me off the path. He put me on a path to answer my real prayer, which was, how do you solve poverty related issues at their root through creating
This is
opportunity?
me. This is me. Listen, we for 9 years were just giving meals. Well, not just giving meals. We always did it in a more holistic way, where it would be in the form of, planting actual farms, a fruit tree farm of hundreds, almost 1,000 fruit trees. And so that was our way of giving meals, because I knew that this handout of a single meal wasn't good enough, but I didn't quite understand how to tap into those root causes. Or we would build 150 beehives or a fish pond to say we were giving meals, because I knew that, yes, our marketing pitch is that we give 7 meals for every product sold, but tangibly, that is not going to solve anything. We've got to create sustainable ways for this food to grow. I mean, I put it in quotations, but really behind the scenes, we were saying, okay, we're going to give meals, but we're going to give sustainability.
Yeah.
But it was about 2 or 3 years ago when we went to Haiti with Tom that I, like you, saw the massive poverty, which I had seen many times on mission trips and things.
Haiti's
but now
different,
as a
though.
person,
Haiti is different. When
Haiti
you
is
see a starving
different.
child, it messes you up. And I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to say that what you've done is so cool. And I really want the listeners to understand. So she started with the emergency need.
Yeah.
The food. If you go start planting trees that take 20 years to grow to really solve an issue of, the tree in Haiti, you let X amount of people die. So you can't actually ignore it. And so what I like to say is if we're master planning the revitalization of these nations, then you've got people dealing with the food because they need to survive to tomorrow. Somebody tagged working on education. Somebody's working on agriculture. Somebody's working on economy. Somebody's working on the corruption. Somebody's working on the disease. Somebody's like, there's so many issues.
That's right. That's right.
There's so much help out there. So many people who want to be part of this, and there's so much need. We just need to master plan how to do it. And so what I love about what you're doing is you're not just creating jobs because there's all these starving people. You're tag teaming both the emergency need and the sustainable giving. And so everything you've done is holy and it is amazing. But if you're really passionate about an additional part, don't curse the one part, because who in their right good mind could possibly look at this starving baby and turn an eye and say,
that's right,
my thing. You can't. You
right.
can't. But if you stop at the starving child, then you're not really fixing it long term. So you got to do both. And I love that you've kind of gone down that, because I don't want people to get lost in either one.
Yeah, for 9 years as a business, we said that we were, and we did. I mean, often we said that for every product you purchase, we will give 7 meals to a child in need. And we did that. We partnered with nonprofits in Fiji, Cambodia, in the United States, in multiple states, in Liberia. We did that, and it was wonderful. But I had an awakening when I visited Haiti with Tom Shoes. They invited us to go and be a part of just a photo shoot. We were not going there for a mission type trip. But when I landed in Haiti and for the first time had my breath taken away from me by what you see as the plane is going down, and you see a sea of shack homes. And I mean, it was just a rude awakening, where I had read about what was going on in Haiti. During the earthquake, of course, we held a benefit concert and donated money to an organization in Haiti, but I had never personally been. And when I saw that these people are smart, kind, resilient, yes, oftentimes hungry, they are hardworking, they are intelligent, I realized, hold on, what is happening here? The problem in this country is infrastructure. There's none of it.
Yeah.
There's a lack of infrastructure here. So we thought, all right, if we can finish this amazing trip that Tom's took us on that allowed us to see the entire island nation of Haiti in just a week. It was incredible, which was so cool for me to have my eyes open to the whole time thinking, where do we want to work? Where do we want to work here in this country? We figured it out because of that trip. And you know, I thought, okay, if we can help to create infrastructure here, I believe maybe this isn't what's needed in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we live and where we fight hunger in a much different way. But here in Haiti, this is going to be a means to an end of fighting hunger. And so we went back and we partnered with an organization called Haiti Made and now help to employ 93 men and women to hand make leather goods.
Wow.
And we pay them incredible wages to the tune of, when we're there, the mayor will come and meet with us and thank us. He's like, thank you for what you're doing for our community. And it's, you know, and Britnie, you'll probably relate to me in this, in that, you know, you have such wide and overarching goals. You know, you're not stopping at small communities. You're saying, I want to change nations. And yeah. I've honestly never thought about it that way. You know, what I want to learn from you is your amazing self-confidence. Like, I'm pretty self-confident, but you you just go for it. And that is so inspiring to somebody like me who feels like I have that deep inside, but I look at you and I'm like, man, she so believes in herself, and it's so inspiring. But I'll say I've never articulated that I want to change nations, but I certainly, and maybe I am, but I've never been impressed by the things that I've accomplished, because I know there's so much further to go. There's so much further. It's like, yeah, we did that, moving on.
Yeah.
Like,
constantly. I feel the same thing. And I think it's actually a woman thing too, where it's never enough. It's not good enough. It's not perfect. It's not this. It's not da. We can always be more. I don't know what it is chemically. I think we wake up with naturally way more insecurity than men do. And it's not a competition. I'm just saying it because you just need to know it to deal with it. Yeah. And so I do not wake up with some incredible confidence or believe I can do it or anything like that, because it's just some daily practices about how to keep myself awake. And so I know that God doesn't normally lightning bolt things into happening. Like, yes. Here's the money you needed, or here's the bread you needed. You know, you did the manna thing back in the day, but it's been a while. So if he's going to do something, he normally uses a vessel. And all I keep doing is raising my hand and saying, please use me. Please use me. Not that I feel worthy, not that I feel perfect or enough, but that I'm willing to be used for a greater good. I will imperfectly, resiliently keep going, because I have so many reminders in my life that this is not about me. This is, of course, I'm important. I have to recognize that. I can't give from an empty cup. But this isn't about me. I really dedicated my life to a life of service. And so to serve, of course, I have to take care of myself in order to be able to serve my greater good, my greatest good. But the name Ariel is about keeping the big picture in mind. Every morning I have a vision board, and I don't give a crap who on here thinks that it's cheesy. It freaking works. And I'm crushing it in life right now. So you can think it doesn't work or blah, 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 woo, woo, affirmation. I don't care what you think. My life is going great. I'm living my purpose. I'm living my dream. I'm changing the world the way that I want to. I get to inspire the people because I freaking lived it. And this has been, it's just kind of a good reminder, because you can just picture, oh yeah, that's the crap that I want.
Yeah.
And it's
what's on your vision board?
Well, one of the important things to answer your question of like that self-confidence is I have a list of the top 5 things that will knock me out of the game.
Okay. I'm going to write these down.
So if I engage in these 5 emotions, I'm destroyed. Okay. And if I engage in these 5 emotions, then I am becoming the best Britnie, the best version. We all have an incredible version of us. You can call it the queen and the fool, the king and the fool inside of us. Yeah. And the highest and best version of Britnie lives, acts, and responds like this. Okay. I took the time to write it out.
Okay.
And the worst Britnie is this. And
Yeah.
so number one on my list is insecurity, because a lot of my calling depends on me being willing to share. But I'll tell you, I get really nervous, and I want to jump out a window every time before I go speak.
Yeah.
Every time, even before I get on a podcast,
Yeah.
I get nervous making an Instagram video, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So I don't have the confidence there, but I remember if I engage in insecurity,
Right.
then I never get to live my calling.
Yeah.
Number 2 is procrastination. Number 3 is anger. Number 4, I told myself I would make 5, but I have 7. And they're all the things I actually engage in the most. And so having it that dummy proof for myself has reminded me, as nervous as you are and as much as you want to avoid doing these things, Britnie, look at number 1. So if you had an enemy out there and you knew his tactics, let's say you're a UFC fighter and you know that this enemy knows you have weak knees. You need to protect your knees, So where are the chinks in your armor that you just need to be more aware of? Don't put more energy into growing those things, but at least wake yourself up to not just falling into it. There's a really great book by Napoleon Hill called Outwitting the Devil. And he wrote Think and Grow Rich. If you haven't read that, it is the common denominator book that all successful people have read. He's the king of mindset in going from this level to that level. So this book came out in 2011 because it's him interviewing, quote unquote, the devil, either real or fake. You don't know in the book. They actually never tell you.
Wow.
If it's fictional or a real experience, but he interviews the devil and asks him all of his tactics. And the reason it just came out 70 years after Think and Grow Rich is the wife of Napoleon Hill made him promise never to release it until everyone in the family was dead.
Oh, wow.
Because it's that controversial. And what I love about the book is it talks about drifters in life and kind of these people who chose a different path. It's kind of matrixy, but it's very real. You were saying earlier, like, I awakened to this, and like we even made a podcast called Broke to Woke, because it's about shifting your mindset from what everybody tells you to do to taking ownership and being a co-creator of your life with God, or with whatever the heck everybody else wants to call it. And owning what matters to you in your one chance on earth and freaking going for it. And so for me, if I constantly engage in 5 emotions that are knocking me out of the game of what I really want, I'm going to idiot proof it for myself. That's my thing.
That's so good. And let me ask you, are you like me where, you've got your list, which I don't have, I've got 3 of your 5 now, so I'm going to have to come up with 2 more, but where you'll be in certain situations with, let's say, a certain family member that pulls out those deepest insecurities in you, and you question, like, or like you diminish what you've achieved, or I do this pretty often with friends, especially with old friends that, who knew me, let's say in high school, and they knew me as one type of person. I've always been the same person, but certainly I didn't exhibit my drive the way I do now, or I didn't exhibit my ability to be organized. When I was a 16-year-old, I was kind of like all over the place, and that's not me now, but they don't spend time with me in my workplace or see that me. So when I'm around them, I find myself sort of like reverting back to that old me so that they feel comfortable. Like, do you do that?
I think every human does it.
Yeah.
Every human does it, but it's important to categorize the word friend. So I started this out with, only listen to people you want to be like. There's the way I define friend is someone who walks with you in life through the good times and bad to encourage and support you to become your best self. And so that would be what I've trained my brain to categorize this person as friend to listen to, but I still only listen to them in that specific area. Right. And then in the other category, I call them asleep friends or drifters or whatever you want to call them. Anybody who's telling you to just chill out, like you need more balance. Why do you have to have so much? Or that's not who you are. Criticize you. Those really aren't real friends.
Yeah.
They're acquaintances you kept around,
Yeah.
but they're not the people you're choosing to do life with. And so I audited my life once I kind of came up with this and mapped it out. And I said, I want 95% of the people in my life to be in this category. And I'm okay to have these 5+, but they're not getting to be any part of my strategy circle, anybody I'm really like listening to. And greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Not that you should put yourself in a camp of people that can tear you down, but like, I do trust that I'm stronger, I guess. And then I found myself, even if I'm around those 5% at all, then I'm going to drive the conversation. Not that I hijack it or become really controlling. I'm telling you guys my secret. I ask a profound question, and I'll just, if everybody's just talking about dumb crap at dinner, I just can't handle it. I'm like, this is such a waste of time. But I'll ask a thought-provoking question, and then people end up having a deep conversation and connecting better anyway, and they enjoy it. But now people like even kind of make fun of it a little bit. Oh, Britney's going to ask a deep question. But you guys love it. And you love it. So I try really hard not to revert. It's hardest with family because they knew you as a kid.
That's right. It is very hard with family. It's
taking that time to be present and center before you go out and meet with them.
Yeah. There we go. That's good. That's
great. Well, girl, we could probably talk for 3 hours. You have done incredible things. You are helping the world, whether you like it or not. And I want to know how you even employ 93 people in Haiti. So we're going to talk about that later. But I want to know, looking back at your 11 years, you said, in business, I want to hear all the quick and dirty best advice you have for somebody who's about to embark on their own social venture journey.
Yeah. You know, I think for me, the like deep foundationally how I would answer that. And if this doesn't get to the answer you're searching for, I mean, you know, I could talk about this topic for days, but you know, I think the first thing to do is to really dive into, you know, we say social entrepreneur, meaning combining philanthropy or some sort of social good with business, right? So I think where I go with that is, you know, the thing that happens a lot of times when we have employed people here at Half United is they assume that just because we are a social enterprise, we are just sitting around planting gardens, feeding people, you know, we are just like doing that mission every day, all day. And really what it is we are actually designing teas and sourcing goods and, you know, debating with manufacturers and asking why things are late. And, you know, we're doing all those routine things that a business needs and does. So I would start by saying, if you are somebody that just doesn't love entrepreneurialism, you don't love being the person to take out the trash and do the taxes and do the hiring and do the firing and, you know, feel the sense of embarrassment when everyone in the room is asking you for the right answer and you don't know the right answer. That's why you hired them.
Yes.
To do what I can't do, and they don't get why you can't do that too. If that makes you sweat or uncomfortable or just disinterested, just don't start a business thinking that just because it's a social enterprise that it's more about the mission than it is the business, because what fuels your mission is your business. So your business
life is not the Instagrammable moments.
Oh,
that's the hardest thing for people to understand. Even your team.
Listen, in our first probably 7 years, we had a turnover rate that I was so ashamed of. Like,
yes.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Thank you, Carmin.
Thank you for understanding that. Britnie, I was so ashamed. I felt like such a loser. I was like, I don't know how to manage people. I'm not a
fraud. Everyone really hates me. I'm not a good leader. I don't really have heart.
This is me. I was like, I don't care about my mission. I'm business driven and all this stuff. And you know, what took me a long time to learn was, no, you have to hire people that are like you, that really love both. They have a sincere heart for helping others, and they grasp the fact that in this context, the business has to be a well-oiled machine to make that happen.
Right.
And when I finally, listen, we have only in the last probably year and a half really like curated that most solid team, right? That took me 10 years.
10 years for me too.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
It's not just you.
Yeah, so that's my advice to people with social entrepreneurship. Just make sure that you understand that it's both. Otherwise, I would say go and be the activist philanthropist. Go and partner with a nonprofit. Or if you really just think that like, oh, adding in a social aspect will help my business grow, no, my friend, it will not. Take your staff on a Saturday and just everyone volunteer and just keep running your business strictly as a business, because combining the two is just twice as hard.
Oh,
Yeah. So I would
man.
say just go one way or the other. But if you love the idea of being all things to all men and the complications that come with being philanthropic, then go for it and do not look back and just run your race is what I would tell people.
Wow, good, tough advice. This isn't what they say when they're selling their course.
Yeah.
Man. It is harder. Yeah, I don't think anybody's brought up that it is harder. And I've also found as a leader, and I'll talk about it for 2 seconds, they are harder on women in general, whatever. I'm not a complainer about being a woman ever, but it just is a thing.
Yeah.
When you lead with heart, when you have to throw down at all, people are 10 times more offended.
I'm so bad.
And I don't know if I've developed the healthy way to be able to do both, except for to try to have somebody in between me. So I think that's an extra complication. At the end of the day, I will say 100% worth it. I don't even know how people are in business without being a social venture, because it's just, that's not what I operate from this place of giving and loving. Like this is what I started for. So I don't know how they do it without that element.
Same.
Because it's just hard. Like, what is worth it? My stuff is not worth it enough for me to keep going.
Same.
So it's been an awesome, beautiful, horribly difficult journey.
Yes.
That to me has ended up really worth it. But I'm willing to share specifically on this podcast the highs and the lows of the journey of being a force for good in life. And it does cost nothing to be kind. So every single one of you listening, you don't have to have a $100+ million business to be a force for good, because kindness changes things itself. So that's the challenge for everybody listening today. But you can give more the more you have. Money is nothing more than an expansion tool of the heart. It's a resource. It just grows anything it touches. And so you can make a difference in buying Carmin Black's incredible products, because the ripple effect of what she's doing is changing the world. You can make a difference with again, your dollars, your time, your energy, your voice, your platform, and your overall attitude. Don't start a business to go change the world if you can't be kind.
Yeah, it's true. It does have to come from the heart. And I'll encourage people that maybe already are social entrepreneurs and they're realizing, oh my gosh, I'm devoting more time to the business than the social venture. I definitely have had those years where I felt like a terrible person because I knew that I had to get the business cranking at that, let's say that season. And it was almost like I had forgotten that we even were in business to do good. And don't beat yourself up about that. I would say if you started from the right place, get yourself back on track. It may even take time. It took me almost 1 year at one point, and I felt like a terrible person. I was like, oh my gosh, I care about business. We haven't done any philanthropy. What am I doing? We're just giving money. What is this? And, just get yourself back on track. Pray, ask God to help you, ask for support, and if it started from the right intentions, you'll always get back to that place where your why will drive you. And if you have those seasons where you've lost sight of it, it's okay. I was so embarrassed by that, but I'm kind of glad I went through that now, because I just know how important it is to stay on track, stay why focused and mission focused, because your business really ultimately does so much better, when that is at the center than when you're trying to just do everything to support the why, but you've lost sight of it.
Exactly. So idiot proof it. We've got a whole wall full of pictures of our why, of the people we've helped, the people we want to keep helping, understanding all the different elements of it. So find a way to keep it around yourself, make it your background. Like idiot proof it. It's really easy to fall asleep because stress makes you focus on that versus the big picture. And so you can stress, make you focus, get through it, don't get lost in it. and then keep going towards your purpose. Carmin, you are an inspiration. You are absolutely amazing. What an honor to have you on today. Thank you so much. I gained so many different amazing nuggets of wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure. And now we know each other, and I'm so glad. Thank you. Yeah.
If you want to learn more about Carmin Black and her incredible company, we're going to have links below. I look forward to continuing this journey with you and increasing your business. You're the bomb.